Okay, check sweep and toe in. Okay, when we finish this finishing arch wire with teardrop loops and ligated in the mouth, because of the torque in the anterior and the loop might be rotated and impinged into the lips. So we have to eliminate this problem by using this plier. This is Meso 623. It can grip both legs of the loop at the same time from the incisor view. And then with wine guard plier, we will bend the loop 15 degrees inside. This will avoid lip impingement. Okay, now on the other side at 2A, we grip again this Meso 623 plier, and with wine guard plier we bend both legs, we bend the loop 15 degrees inside. Can you see? 15 degrees inside. Bend the loop 15 degrees inside to avoid lip injuries. And the last sequence for the contraction arch wire bending sequence of a maxillary contraction arch wire with standard or L closing loop with leg crossed. Number 1, we do the first order bends, anterior curvature. Number 2, we bend the closing loop with intrusion step. This is strongly recommended. Number 3, the third order bends, we do the anterior torque, and this time with indirect technique. Number 4, we do the first order bend, that is the canine out bend and curvature. You have to grip the plier on the O16 side. I repeat, grip the plier on the O16 side of the posterior segment at the distal leg of the loop, and then push the arch wire distal of the plier 15 degrees out and move the plier 1 millimeter distally, and then bend the canine curvature. Number 5 is the second order bend. We do artistic or de-artistic of the anterior segment. Number 6, no tie back loop in most of the case, and with the intrusion step between the first and the second molar, we need to intrude the second molar. Additional torque for the second molar needed to be bent as well. Number 7, sweep. Number 8, torque in the posterior segment. Number 9, you have to check your sweep, check your tip back bend, the gable bend at the loop. And the last element, number 10, is the toe in. Note, the leg of the L loop may or may not cross. You have to grip your tweed arch wire bending plier on the O22 side. I repeat, on the O22 side of the arch wire, 1 millimeter mesial to the mesial leg of the loop, and then push the loop 15 degrees outward. The torque will be found in the posterior segment of the arch wire, and then perform the elimination of the half moon bend to transfer the torque into the anterior segment of the arch wire. In some cases, for mandibular finishing arch wire, or we call it the contraction arch wire number 2, for space closing at the extraction site, tie back loop are recommended between the first and the second molar, to ease the activation of the arch wire by using 012 tie back ligature. The closing loop will be opened and the ligature will be tied in as the loop opens to lock. Because there is less room in the retromolar area to cinch the arch wire, intrusion step may or may not be necessary. Additional torque for the second molar needed to be bent. Torque in the second molar tube is 0, so that to ease the arch wire engagement into the second molar tube, the second molar will assume the right position and proper buccolingual inclination, and the loop will not impinge into the gum tissue. The step number 7 and number 8 can be interchanged. The effect of the anterior torque we bend may push the closing loop to some degree towards the lip during the first time bracket engagement and ligation, which will cause irritation or injuries to the lips. To avoid this, before ligation, grip the arch wire with the tweed arch wire bending plier on both legs of the loop on 016 side. I repeat, on the 016 side of the arch wire, and grip also with the wine guard plier on both legs of the loop 1 mm away from the tweed arch wire bending plier, and then bend both legs of the loop approximately 15 degrees inward. And this will make the arch wire engage in the bracket slot and ligation easier. For more detail, please read again on page 44. The next wire bending sequence for a maxillary contraction arch wire CAW with standard L closing loop, which is leg is crossed. At point 2A and 2B, we bend L closing loop. So, first order bend, anterior curvature, closing loop with intrusion step is recommended. One millimeter intrusion step. Now we did first order bend, anterior curvature, closing loop with intrusion step, and the third order bend, anterior torque. We have to do indirect technique now. We push 15 degrees outside, we push the loop 15 degrees outside. We do half moon elimination, transfer torque to the anterior segment. Zero torque in the posterior segment, zero torque in the posterior segment, anterior torque. Okay. Artistic in the anterior segment. We assume that artistic was okay, so we skipped the artistic. No tie back loop in most of the case. We do canine out bend. Intrusion step, intrusion step, canine curvature, canine out bend, intrusion step for the second molar. Torque in the posterior segment. Especially for the second molar. Torque in the posterior segment. Special for second molar. Sweep. In this case, step number 7 and number 8 can be interchanged. So this time I bend the sweep after the posterior torque. Check tip back bend or gable bend at the loop. So we add additional gable at the loop. More sweep. Okay. Between. And again, when we ligate it, this anterior torque might cause rotation of the loop and injure the cheek or the lip. Maybe 15 degrees of wide bending will be needed to bend the loop inside. So meso plier 623 will be needed. This shows a lot of torque in the anterior segment. With the last section of the book, you will find the arch wire with bending and loops. And this table will show you which arch wire can be bent and which arch wire you cannot bend. The next section will be the arch wire sequence for different phases of treatment, and this will help you select proper wire for the proper time of the treatment. And the third one is the clinical orthodontic treatment procedure. This is also a very good guideline to lead you from the beginning of the treatment through the 5 different phases of the treatment, and then finally to finish the cases. Now, this is my final comment. The philosophy of teaching that I've been conducted through 35 years is based on the Rome principle. This is the fact about Rome. Number 1, Rome was not built in one day. So you need to practice day in, day out, over and over. And I like to say, practice makes perfect. Number 2, there are different ways to go to Rome. This is only one way to treat the case. And I do admit that there are different ways to treat the cases. And if you practice one way and you master it, this will be the way that you feel safe, you feel confidence, and you use this to be the road to travel to the end of the treatment. And the third principle of Rome is do as the Romans do. You have to enjoy your life. Do not overwork. You work with happiness, you receive the good result, and then you will be happy. I want you not to believe me, but I want you to practice, to prove what I say, to follow what I did. And when you find it can produce a good result, then believe it. Thank you for your attention.